Hi, everybody, and welcome to The What Now with yours truly, Jeff Weber. My guests come from all corners of the music business and the entertainment business as we examine careers and perspectives from the inside out. To have a career in our business takes a lot more than simply being amazing at what you do. And with the world and our business being in such a swirling cyclone of trepidation, uncertainty, and outright speculation, we try to answer the question on all of our minds: what now? I cannot even begin to tell you how fabulous I feel with my guest today, Tariqh Akoni. And you may or may not know of Tariqh, but I promise you, you have heard him for years. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Tariqh's a highly sought after session guitarist and songwriter. He's musical director for multi-platinum recording artist Josh Groban and has toured or recorded alongside artists such as diverse as Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, Elton John, George Duke, Herbie Hancock, Bette Midler, Christina Aguilera, Patti Labelle, Luther Vandross, Alicia Keys, Carlos Santana, Toni Braxton, Jarreau, Boyz II Men, Chaka Khan, Whitney Houston, the Backstreet Boys, and that's only on Monday. So when I tell you you've heard his music, the odds are, yes, you've heard his music. What I love most is that Tariqh, besides being on many of my records for many, many years, is constantly on the road. There's so much on the road that his production company is called Roadweary Productions. And so I'm not really sure, Tariqh, is it better to be on the road or is it better to be home?
For me, it's better to be home. I am road weary and have been for 20 years. So I love being home.
Well, and I know you love being home because your wife is there and
Mm-hmm.
you get to do and we both share a passion for wine, or actually all of us share a passion for wine.
Yes.
And it's kind of great to be home, but you spend so much time away. How does that work? Do you kind of have, let's just talk about do you have more than one set of equipment, one that you keep in cases where you can just at a moment's notice just ship it off? Because I know that when we get in the studio, you bring everything, the kitchen sink, the double wide refrigerator, and an SUV, and you park it right.
A deep freeze. Yeah, so when I'm traveling, I typically have a couple of different rigs. Like we're being videocast, so you can see some of the stuff I have in here. And normally this stuff kind of stays home. This is kind of my recording rig for my personal studio. Then I have a whole mess of gear at Hollywood Studio Rentals down in Los Angeles.
Right.
That they sometimes deliver to recording sessions, or there's actually a locker that has a bunch of my touring gear. So when my stuff comes back from touring, it normally stays there and then gets loaded back in for rehearsals. And there's a couple of little bits and bobs that travel back and forth between the different rigs. But the reality of the situation, especially with today's workflow, is I need to be prepared to, once again, I might have to have a rig set up in 3 different places. I might have literally stuff coming in from tour, but I have a session, let's say, booked with you at East West the next morning, and it's not going to turn around quickly enough. So I've got to make sure I've got my session work tools in one place, my touring work tools. Even on a recent tour, I was in Korea and had to fly into, I believe, a recording session the next day or a rehearsal the next day. And so there was no way that some of my gear was going to make it back in time. So I had to really be conscientious of what went where, what got cross-loaded correctly, and things like that. But to your point, I've been trying to minimize my commitments on the road as much as I can. I obviously, Josh is someone I've worked with for nearly 20 years, But other than Josh and some specific artists, I really prefer to be home and to be creating and doing recording sessions, studio sessions, writing, composing. This is kind of my favorite space to be.
I just want to do this little plug. Just recently, Tariqh wrote a song with Chris Pierce that we used as in a documentary that I was music supervisor on. And I don't know if I've told you this, but the director just called me yesterday, and he was just telling me that he just didn't realize how great that song was. He knew it was great.
Oh, thank you.
But he listened to it again and thought, oh my God, this is so right on. And
that's perfect.
It's such a pleasure to hear that from the director, and obviously, Chris did a great job too. And I love having you. I tell people all the time that I'm in the TA business, and that is not.
I love that.
Let's not go the other TA.
Well, I have a crazy and dirty mind. So yes.
So maybe that's why I said it.
Right, there we go.
But we've been friends, and I've been honored to have you on my records for a long time. And is being a session musician, oftentimes you may be playing with musicians for the first time. You may have not met the producer for this time. You may have been working. Mm-hmm. You may be working on a film for this time, for the first time. Is there any special, thing? I mean, obviously you're really tough to get to know, but is there something special that you do when you're meeting somebody for the first time?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that I have a kind of life philosophy that I think kind of bleeds into my professional life and whatnot. But I think that you first of all, I like people, so I feel very fortunate in that sense. But the other part of it for me is I think that you have to leave yourself open to the situation. And so even as you train yourself as a musician, you try not to walk into each situation with an agenda. Like, I don't show up at a session thinking, man, I can't wait to play my B.B. King licks. That the song might not call for that. So you leave yourself open to having a conversation with the music and having a conversation with people, like really being a listener, really being able to kind of, provide what they need. And I think that in a larger scale mindset, I always want to be, when you're a sideman or a session musician, you will realize that you are in a service industry. So I always want to be of service. And if that means that I provide a good environment for people to feel creative, or as a musical director, that I am protecting the artist so that they can feel the most creative, or as a musician, as a studio musician, if somebody says, man, I'd love to hear this on bouzouki, it's like, sure, grab a bouzouki. And to be of service in that moment to me is really part of my job. And I think that when you train yourself to be flexible and malleable and receptive in that way, it allows you to work in a lot of different contexts with different people and hopefully bring that bonus to the table each time you interact with people.
One of the special pleasures I get is, when I see you and you're on one of my dates and I bring you the chart and I say, here's the chart, please don't play this.
Yeah.
This is just the green light.
I love that you do that. Yes.
The green light and the red light, because I'm so appreciative of your abilities and your talent and your spirit and your, quest for excellence, that everybody wins when you come up with a unique part, or whether you have a suggestion about something that would make the song better. I wonder, and I would hope that the answer would be what I think it should be, but I don't know. Obviously producers don't really get together in the studio and watch other producers, but I would imagine that, does this happen often, that you're allowed to have that freedom where you don't have to ask permission, you just have to do your thing? Or are you strictly relegated to, in certain areas, hey man, just play the ink? I can understand on a film score, but does it happen often where other producers say, you go girl? You know what I mean? It
all depends on, I'm only editing my response because I have such a weird sense of humor.
Don't.
No. Well, I was going to say, last time someone said, girl, I hadn't grown this yet, but I think the earrings sometimes throw people off. No, you know what? It depends on the artist and the producer and or composer. So some people have a really clear vision of exactly what they want, and they want you to play the ink in it. And for me, the real trick is actually getting the notes off the page. Is really kind of getting into the psychology of, notes on a page, they can only tell you so much, but it has to be informed by wisdom, experience, taste, all those kinds of things, and being a well-listened craftsman in that setting is really important. So for instance, Leland Sklar can read, he can read fly shit, but he also brings Leland to the table.
He does.
And to me, that's kind of the goal, is even if everything's written out, to imbue it with a sense of urgency and life and bring it off the page so that it doesn't sound written or feel written. And then to inform all the blank spaces, to kind of, whether it's, for instance, stylistically, it could be note length, it could be ornamentation, it could be bends, it could be guitar tones, all these things that inform the genre and or style, and allow you to kind of bring a certain level of personality. Because at the end of the day, if someone just wanted it played perfectly, they could put it into a computer and have a computer spit it out. But when you're there to have a knowledge of what, if it feels Pink Floyd-ish, to have a knowledge of what David Gilmour would do, or to be able to say, hey, you know what? The Doors tended to do this. Do you mind if I grab this guitar and add another thing?
Right.
And the other side of that is being conscious and conscientious of the time and how the time is going to be allocated. So knowing that we're not spending, let's say, 3 days on a song like we might have done in the 80s, it's like, or, one might have done in the 80s. It's like, if you know that, okay, we got to knock this much out, then what gets prioritized? How do you make sure that you leave feeling like it's in the end zone, feeling like, you as the producer feel happy?
Well, one of the reasons why I like to have your input as you listen and hear the songs is because there's a certain level of emotion that comes equipped with the freedom that allows you to come in and listen and say, hey, wait a minute, I really have to do that part again, or I made a little in a certain bar.
Yes.
I need to fix that. But, so having, it's my kind of dirty little playbook where I engage the musicians to be emotionally invested so that they want to make this the best representation of them that they can. And so that, all of a sudden the spirit of the song comes into play, and there you are saying, oh, wait, I have this great guitar part that, I know you're going to love. And of course, that's all I have to hear,
Right.
and
I totally agree with you. Yeah. Well, and I totally agree with you because when I'm in the producer's chair, my big goal is for everyone to have a certain sense of ownership. Right. And like you said, pride of ownership. Like, I want people to walk away going, hey, check me out on this record, because, it's and I always feel like that the trick is in casting, as you're kind of saying. And one of the analogies I like to make is, if you hire Robert De Niro, you don't tell him, hey, make sure to say the lines exactly like they're written, go to the center of the stage, put your right arm up. It's like you give him the freedom to bring life to the part. Right. And then you never know what you're going to get, but he's going to inform it with the fact that he's Robert De Niro. And so that's always my take on it, which is trying to cast wisely so that you can put that stuff in the meat grinder and it comes out this, I wonder if I'm hungry using the meat analogy.
Well, it could be. Super Rica, come on.
Yes.
Okay, so
right around the corner, right?
Right around. Man, I'm already jealous. Yeah. Anyway, so the idea of, I know that you're the same when you're producing is that I pick the exact people that will give life to the song and to the chart. And
absolutely,
and, that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because if you've been doing this for a while, you have good friends. Like you mentioned Lee Sklar. I wish I could use him on every record, but it may be Rhonda Smith. It may be Nate. It may be some of these, and it's the good thing and the bad thing when you can't. You know what I mean? But a lot of players, yourself included, are kind of these chameleon type players where you just basically say, hey, here's the direction, here's the vibe, and you've already got it. That's the beauty of a session player, is that they can fit into any mold, and it comes with oh man, I got the perfect guitar through the perfect amp, through the perfect head.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait until you hear it. That's all I need.
Well, and to your point, I think that you know, especially when you're in this industry, you have a realization that you know there are different teams and relationships that form and whatnot. And for me, sometimes it's the people that I tend to call a lot of times over and over again are people that I have to say the least to. So you develop this kind of shorthand and how you guys work together, and that they hear things the way you hear things or whatever, and so it becomes a real shorthand. And I think that because I kind of look at the macro of being a music creator, and my role from gig to gig or whatever changes, whether it's I'm sitting in the producer's chair, I'm in the guitar player's chair, I'm in the musical director's chair. I'm like right now I'm doing that string arrangement, that's a whole other chair. But at the end of the day, is in music creation, and you're part of a team and trying to get the ball into the end zone. So for me, I was talking to someone recently saying, I love playing acoustic guitar on gigs because typically when you've got 3 or 4 guitar players, everybody wants to be in the hot shot seat. But I love being part of a team. I love, supporting somebody or supporting the singer or making people. So I don't mind if it's mandolin, banjo, steel string, if I'm in the spotlight taking the lead or whatever. It's really part of this team sport of making music. And to me, that's a larger kind of boon, for lack of a better term.
Being a team player just kind of leads me to the next thought that I had about you as an MD, musical director. A lot of that is administrative, yes, and a lot of that is wearing in different hats, scheduling, calling people who aren't on time, and doing that. How do you prepare for that role, and what exactly is a role of a musical director? For folks that may not be familiar with it.
Well,
is it like a guy with a cattle prod? All right.
Pretty much, it's herding cats. No, I mean it's a really, really great question, and I think that it's in general the role of the musical director is obviously to prepare the music for performance and prepare the band for performance. Depending on the band, that role can change drastically. Like it could be your job to do all of the arrangements on stage and to coordinate with the dance captain and things like that. It could also be doing orchestrations, arrangements, conducting, leading choirs, all of that stuff. So depending on the artist, it changes dramatically. My job with Josh, the way I look at it is I am the last line of defense for Josh. So my take on it is his job is to get up and be amazing every night.
Right.
My job is to make sure he doesn't have to think about anything other than being amazing. Mm. So if the, third French horn player is lost in traffic, I don't want him having to think about that, because then that's in his head and he can't do what he needs to do to succeed. So my job is everything from, like right now I'm doing a lot of management administration because we've got 3 live streams coming up. So it's 3 different rounds of material, 3 different configurations of band, orchestral stuff, new album stuff, tracks coming in from producers and arrangers, and just kind of being a traffic cop to make sure everybody has the tools they need to do their job. And then once we get into the rehearsal process, it's focusing in on making sure the band can execute the music well for performance for these different environments. So it can really change, because a day in the life on the road, I'm typically up early, have to rehearse the orchestra, conduct the orchestra, rehearse choir, rehearse the band, sound check Josh, probably have a meeting with production, because it might be something where in this venue, the lighting rig had to come down a little bit. So that means that Josh can't go where he needs to go. And I have to kind of communicate those things to Josh and being a liaison. And then at the end of the day, I've actually got to get up and play guitar like I don't have a concern.
So that's where the title Roadweary comes in.
Yeah, yes, it's a long day. But at the same time, it's also challenging in a different way. And I'm very lucky to have developed this relationship with an artist for close to 20 years.
Very rare.
But there is something where, typically by the time I have my hands on the music, it's pretty well conceived. So it's not always the outlet for me to do what I do in here. in terms of, writing, arranging, orchestrating, some of that stuff. Like, there's more that I get to do in here from a writing standpoint,
Right.
which I love, than I get to do with Josh. So they kind of feed two different masters to a certain extent.
Okay, so we see that you are a jack of every trade, but where is the Tariqh Akoni record?
Well, I was working on a record back in 2005, and I have a friend that keeps teasing me saying, I think the next Pink Floyd record is going to come out before your next album.
Listen, I think the next Led Zeppelin album is coming out before your record. I mean,
well, ironically, there's an old saying, the cobbler's son has no shoes.
right.
And I'm always, there's always something on the docket that I'm trying to complete for someone else, but I am working on some material for myself. And I'm actually doing a live stream performance of my stuff with a couple of special guests up here in Santa Barbara. It's going to be videotaped and audio recorded for posterity and whatnot, but it's going to be a live stream. I think we're talking about December 12th or something like that.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So you'll be hearing me sing and play guitar and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Fantastic. And
Yeah.
you will be recording it, right?
Yes. So it's actually, I believe, a 3-camera shoot and all that stuff. So it's going to be a whole thing.
Where are you doing it? Are you doing it at a location in Santa Barbara, or?
Mm-hmm. So there's a series that the Marjorie Luke Theater is doing up here, and it's a beautiful theater. And essentially what they did was they realized that because of the quarantine, their whole schedule got canceled. So they decided, instead of booking acts or looking just at 2021 and 2022, why don't we do these socially distant live streams with no audience, and we use this beautiful theater and put it to use? And that way they can actually not only live stream it, but once again record it for posterity, and you can kind of go and it's free to check out and whatnot. So that's going to be at the theater, and I can actually send you a link so you can see it. But it's a gorgeous theater.
Oh, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, and that's going to be a fun one.
It brings up a really interesting point, because now with our industry being torn to shreds, live performances out the window for the most part, recordings are few and far between. How are you making it? I mean, how are you pushing out more product for potential licensing opportunities? How is this? Just how are you getting through it all is what I want to know.
I am super fortunate in this quarantine. I mean, obviously this has hit everybody incredibly hard. And I just happen to be fortunate. And I was actually talking to a friend of mine who is he's a Grammy Award-winning producer, as are you. But he is also a musical director for the pre-Grammy broadcast.
Pre-Grammy
my friend Cheche.
Yeah.
Do you know Cheche, Laura?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I don't know him personally, but he is amazing.
Okay. Oh, he's great. And we've known each other since college. And we were talking about this recently, saying, thank God we moved to LA when we did, and our careers were where they are during this quarantine. Because if I had to make my living the way I did 20 years ago, I would be really, I'd be up a creek without a paddle.
Right. But
basically, my time is spent here. I still am getting projects in, composing, writing, a lot of writing, arranging, and guitar sessions. And then still I work with Josh, and we're doing, as I said, 3 live streams coming up. I do some stuff with Kenny Loggins up here. And that's mostly because with the quarantine, Kenny didn't want to fly in his band guitar player, to make sure that he keeps him safe, etc. So I've been covering for him up here. So between that and as you said, writing for licensing opportunities and sync things, it's actually turned into I've always looked for ways to strengthen this reality, but because I keep getting pulled on the road, it's really difficult to get momentum and not have it broken up. So what I've tried to do is, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, do you see yourself as a brand? Do you see yourself, because you're doing a lot, now people can call you and go, oh, I want Tariqh Akoni on my record, and I'm in New Jersey, or,
yes.
I'm in St. Louis. I want that. How are you promoting, the Tariqh Akoni brand, if you will?
No, that's a great question. And so it's a combination of things. I'm involved in a couple of different projects that are going to be coming out a little bit later on. Wink. Um, but one of which is I'm also going to be doing. I have a whole camera setup. You can't see it from this angle, but I actually have lights up there and up there, and I've got a light there, and I've got two cameras that aim this direction. So I'm going to be doing. I was the head of a guitar department at the LA Music Academy.
Right.
And they wanted to have me digitize some of my lessons for their online content. But instead of doing that, I'm actually going to be doing a series of YouTube educational things that I'm going to stream on my website as well as YouTube. And then there's all this other material that's going to kind of come out closer to the end of the year. But the truth of the matter is, I do see it as kind of a Tariqh Akoni brand, but my love, interest, and whatnot is so eclectic that once again, I love playing guitar. I love coming and doing sessions with you and hanging out with you and Clark and Rhonda and Dapo and the whole gang. And I also love doing stuff from here. And that idea of, once again, being able to kind of not only monetize this space, but having a sustainability with what I'm able to do from here is part of kind of my mission during this quarantine, because I've been forced into this position, so I want to make the best of it. And going back to workflow in terms of music creation, one of the things I did in here was move from my super powerful tower setup and Mac Mini running stuff to working off of my laptop, because what I found was if I have to be in an airport in Austin, Texas, but I've got to finish something, I can't depend that it's on another drive or that operating system is not the same as this operating system. I need to literally be able to plug that into this bigger rig, finish it up, or be in New York, etc. So like when I was doing this show last year in New York, I was in New York for 2 weeks, and I was still doing recording sessions from my hotel room that I was able to ship out, and then come back home, plug everything in, finish up a song, and keep my workflow going so I don't get hung up and stuck in the mud.
This is double and triple dipping.
Absolutely. It's the only way to go.
So let me put this rumor to rest right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So is it true?
6'5". Sorry.
That I already know that I'm 6'3" and I have to look up to you. So is it true that this whole guitar thing is just kind of a whim because you're going to kind of give it up as you purchase a winery in Santa Ynez and develop Pinots, cabs, all of that stuff, and forget the goddamn music business? By the way,
one of my favorite.
Weber.
Right, there you go. Well, one of my favorite quotes is someone said, "What would you do if you won the lottery?" And someone said, "I would play guitar till I ran out of money." so for me, honestly, I would love to have a winery, especially if someone else managed it.
Right.
And I would love to just like sit in back and play guitar all day and drink wine. That sounds like nirvana to me. That's fantastic.
I don't know.
And yes, and we'll have a whole strain of Pinots that are just the Weber Pinots.
That's right. And the Weber caps.
There you go. The Weber caps.
There is a guy named Jeff Gargiulo who was CEO of Sunkist, and he moved to Napa and with his wife bought a vineyard next to Screaming Eagle and started Gargiulo wines, which are amazing. You go to the tasting room and it's filled with nothing but guitars on the wall that you can actually play.
Yes.
As you drink. Well, so I see that.
Well, it's always interesting that whole thing of art versus commerce. It's like, it's a longer conversation, but there's a part of it where the artistic side of me, I'll never stop playing guitar.
Right.
It's just whether I feel compelled to once again go on the road or what it looks like in that respect. But in all honesty, that part of the creative process of writing music, playing guitar, experimenting with stuff, creating something new, those are the things that actually are kind of lifeblood. And
right.
I was actually working with someone earlier today, and I used the analogy that like there's something about the creative process that feels like climbing into a warm bath. Like it's so relaxing to me, I mean, obviously the birth process can be difficult, and there can be, effort in those things, but being in that creative sense, being in that space, being in that, realm of opportunity is something that just is so kind of soothing, to my brain, because it kind of gets you off that treadmill of some of the other stuff.
It's your blood. It's your breathing. It's natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way it goes. I want to ask you what is your website if someone wanted to have a Tariqh Akoni track on their product and they're in who knows where? Where do they find you? Where can they?
It's literally my name.com. It's Tariqh, TARIQH.com. Or if you put in tariqhakoni.com, it'll take you to the same place.
So
and I'm currently redesigning it as we speak. So there's going to be soon, as I was saying, there's going to be more audio content. There's going to be video content. This live stream is going to be up there. And I'm involved in an educational project where we're going to be collaborating through my website. There'll be my personal things, and then there's going to be this collaborative project that I'm doing that's going to be a combination podcast and educational process.
And I might mention that you're also the musical director for the Radical Note Music Festival in Santa Barbara, October 27th, 24th, which I am.
That's going to be incredible. And I think that once again, people are so thirsty for music, and in Santa Barbara, as we talked about before, it's like the whole aesthetic, the landscape is changing. And just to dovetail back into what we were saying before, this quarantine period is a nightmare, for so many reasons, so many industries, so many people. And a friend of mine would say, what happened with the Black Plague? There was the Renaissance. Meaning, if for me, changing my perspective and trying to think of how can I utilize this time, now that I'm forced into this position, how can I utilize this to change my trajectory, to approach different things, and to kind of recast how I go about things has really actually been illuminating for me and a bit of a gift. And with Santa Barbara, as you've seen, the landscape is changing, and I don't see it going back to where now businesses are open onto the street, and it's almost like an open market where you can eat and drink wine. And I think it's a great fertile opportunity for more music and more art and more communication with artists. So I'm super positive about that. We just have to get this pesky, deadly virus, off the books.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Tariqh Akoni All-Star recordings, and
yes,
I'm super excited about this. I want to thank you so very much for your time. I'm vice president of your fan club. We just had elections. Our elections are a lot earlier than the other elections.
Well, I need to talk to the treasurer. Speaking of which, yes.
Wait a minute, you are the treasurer.
Oh shoot, that's right.
So we obviously I am in the TA business, and I love having you on my records, and we have more fun than anyone, and it's just such a pleasure to chat with you today. Thanks for doing this, and I will let you know when this airs. And
absolutely,
we will be talking shortly. I'll be coming up to your area in probably the next 4 to 6 weeks. I'll let you know ahead of time.
Come on up,
and we'll schmooze.
Well, and I want to thank you for inviting me, and it's always a pleasure once again to chat, whether it's just on the phone about random things or in this capacity. And I really love what you're doing and appreciate what you're doing and shining a light. And I love some of the questions that you ask, because I think that there's so much going on right now, and kind of getting an understanding of how people are surviving during this time and how people are creating and continuing to kind of devote themselves to creating art, I think is a really, really important subject. So thank you. And, I'm here for you anytime for anything, whether it's wine or whether it's, playing guitar. It's all in the win category.
Well, I'm certainly glad you have your priorities in order.
Actually, a wine-shaped guitar, and then I think I'm yeah.
Well, now that's an easy do. Having you said that, I'm just know that when NAMM comes around, whenever we'll see it.
Yes.
Somebody's going to do that. Taylor will probably do it. Anyway, thank you, buddy. I will chat with you soon. As always, best to the family, and we will talk shortly.
Thank you, my friend. Take care.
All right.